All right, so today we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting using negative numbers. I found that the majority of you have a decent handle on multiplying and dividing, and adding and subtracting is a little bit more difficult, so I want to start there. So I have some problems on the board. I have 3 plus 5, negative 3 plus negative 5, negative 3 plus 5, and negative 5 plus 3. And I know that you learned a song last year, and that is great. Songs are awesome, but I want to show you how this problem works. So what you're going to do is draw a number line. Draw it with me.
From negative 12 all the way to positive 12.
All right, I know that my number line's not perfect, and that is a-okay. It's going to work for the purpose of our demonstration. So I'm going to start with basic addition. I know that you know that 3 plus 5 is 8, but I want to show you how we got there on the number line. I started at 3, and I moved 5 places to the right because I'm adding. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I ended up at 8. It's the same thing if you have negative numbers, but you're doing the opposite, because a negative number is the opposite of that number. So I'll show you. Negative 3 is right here, plus negative 5. If it is opposite 5, we're still moving 5 places, but we're going in the opposite direction. We're going to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to the left, and we're at negative 8. This goes along with the part of the song that says same signs add and keep. These guys have the same sign right here. Negative 3 and negative 5 are both negative. So we'll add their absolute values. That's just the positive version of this number. So 3 plus 5 is 8. They're both negative, so I keep the negative sign. Now I'm going to try with these numbers, negative 3 plus 5. I'm going to start at negative 3. If I'm adding 5, I'm going to jump 5 spaces to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that puts me at positive 2. This goes along with the line in the song where if you have different signs, you subtract. Right? So I could say 3 minus 5, confusing. Flip it. 5 minus 3 is 2. And then you take the sign of the higher number. The 5 is the higher number. It is positive, so it's a positive 2. And this last problem, negative 5 plus 3, I'm going to start at negative 5 on my number line. If I'm adding 3, I'm moving to the right 3. 1, 2, 3. And that puts me at negative 2. Same thing, I can subtract because they're they're opposite signs. So 5 minus 3 is 2. And then I take the sign of the higher number, which is 5. So my answer is negative 2. So you could use the rules from the song, or you can always use a number line if it helps you to draw one on your paper. So now we're going to move on to some subtraction problems. So this first one, I have 5 minus 3. I know that you know that 5 minus 3 is 2, but I want to show you on the number line so we can use the number line for these more difficult problems. So I'll start at 5. If I'm subtracting 3, subtraction, I move to the left, so I'm moving left 3, 1, 2, 3, and I end up at 2. With question 2, I'm going to do the same thing. So I see 3 minus 5. Well, 5 is bigger than 3, so I can't subtract it without getting a negative number. I'm going to start at 3. And I'm going to move to the left because it's subtraction. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That ends me at negative 2. Now the song that you had is about addition problems, so I'm not going to be talking about the song. I'm only going to show you on a number line. This next one, -5 minus -3. There's 2 ways to think about this. The first thing you could do is put a dot at -5. If we're thinking subtraction, we're going to go to the left. But if we're subtracting a -3, we're going to go in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, which makes my answer -2. Here's another way to think about it. I know that you know about the distributive property. We can distribute this negative to this negative right here, and it becomes -5 plus 3. So I'll start at -5, and I'll add 3. If I'm adding, I'm moving to the right, so 1, 2, 3 gives me -2. And you can think about it by saying if you subtract a negative, you add. You can do those little arm movements with you to help you remember. When you subtract a negative, you add. So let's do this here as well. -3 minus -5 is the same thing as -3 plus 5. And let's try this on here. I have -3. And I'm going to add 5. If I'm adding, I'm moving to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gives me a +2. Because these are addition problems, you could also sing your song with you have same signs, add and keep different signs. You subtract, keep the sign of the higher number. Number 5 is -5 minus 3. Again, there's 2 ways you could think about this. The first way is you could put your dot on -5. And if we're subtracting 3, that means that we're moving to the left 3. 1, 2, 3, which gives you -8. Another way to think about this is when you're subtracting 3, that's the same thing as adding -3. And now you have the same signs, so you can add them and keep the sign. Same signs, add and keep. -5 plus means you would go to the right. Negative means you go to the left. 1, 2, 3 gives you -8. And I'll show you with this example as well. -3 minus 5. I'll start at -3. If I'm subtracting 5, I'm moving to the left 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gives you -8. Or you could say that the same thing as subtracting 5 is adding -5. So -3 plus -5 is like saying the same signs, add and keep. You'll add 3 and 5, and you'll keep the negative here. So you have -8. And now you're all set. You can go ahead and do your quizzes assignments for some practice. And the quizzes assignment is going to be your grade for the day. I recommend that when you do this assignment, you draw yourself that number line because it'll definitely help you. If not, if you would prefer to use the song and use the absolute values, that is okay as well.